they want to be after this, and we all thank you for coming. I'd like to, at this point, introduce to you our two Grand Marshals. First, a local boy. He's a community activist, he's a historian, he's also an author. So I'd like to present to you Mr. Michael Perlman.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for coming. I am proud to be an American and march in the name of our veterans who have dedicated their lives to defend our country and exhibit our American spirit at its finest. I am truly inspired and grateful to have been presented with the honor of Grand Marshal, and I would like to say hats off to fellow Grand Marshal Major Michael Dunne. Among the many past Grand Marshals that have inspired me is Joseph Savoy, a Renaissance man who co-founded the Forest Hills Volunteer Ambulance Corps and presided over the Forest Hills Community and Civic Association, chaired Community Board 9 and Community Board 6, and also led Boy Scout Troop 349. In Forest Hills and Rego Park, there are quite a few visual anchors with Memorial Day connections which bridge the generations. They include the World War I Captain Gerald McDonald statue at McDonald Park, Remsen Cemetery, Lord Battalion Hall, and Adolph Wyman's World War I Soldiers and Sailors Memorial at Flagpole Green in the Forest Hills Gardens, which memorializes the names of 102 Forest Hills residents who served in World War I. At 34, I am a fifth-generation Forest Hills resident. I have not served our country, but have long embraced good deeds by volunteering my services to enhance our communities and preserve our history. I'm the author of the book Legendary Locals of Forest Hills and Rego Park. I founded Rego Forest Preservation Council to preserve and commemorate our architectural and cultural history. I help preserve meaningful sites locally, such as Cinemark Cinemas, Forest Hills Tennis Stadium, Rego Park Jewish Center, the Forest Hills Firehouse, the Forest Park Carousel, and the Ridgewood Theater. And to help restore the forest in Forest Hills and nearby, I coordinated Forest Hills tree giveaway events, and with the help of volunteers, donated 1,250 trees between 2011 and 2015. I had the privilege to raise funds and work with local businesses, residents, and 2 international artists, and in April, a new mural was born at the Aspen Avenue LIRR underpass to pay tribute to Forest Hills history. In partnership with Chabad of Forest Hills North, I helped build an 18-foot menorah in Yellowstone Park symbolizing Chai, a good life. I also designed a few permanent Forest Hills history exhibitions in lobbies and in local businesses paying tribute to our history. I rescued historic diners including the Cheyenne Diner and Moondance Diner in New York City. Many thanks to American Legion Continental Post 1424, the Forest Hills Kiwanis, TD Bank, among many local businesses. Every day, it is essential for Americans to hold in their hearts the memory of those who fought and perished for our country. Never cease to honor those who dedicated their soul to our blessed country. God bless America, and thank you very much, everybody, for coming. May every day be Memorial Day in spirit. It's always timely. God bless America, everyone.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you.
I now have the distinguished pleasure of introducing to you our other Grand Marshal, somebody who's dedicated himself to wearing the uniform of this great nation, Major Michael Dunne.
Thank you, Bob. I wrote most of this the other day on the Q23 bus waiting for us, so am I long or maybe short? Good afternoon, Queens Bar President Melinda Katz, Council Member Ulrich, Sliwa, Community Board Chairperson Hennessy. Whoops. And all of our other distinguished guests, civic leaders, sponsors, and fellow residents of Rego Park and Forest Hills. Thank you all for being here today. You all could have been somewhere else right now, yet you chose to be standing here with us to help keep America's sacred and solemn tradition of Memorial Day going for yet another year. A big thank you to all of you for that. Give yourselves a hand. Every once in a while, somebody will come up to me and ask me, Mike, I know Memorial Day is not the time to be buying mattresses or buying a car, which you'll see on TV all the time, but constantly saying thanks for your service to both living and deceased military personnel doesn't seem to be enough. Is there anything more I can do? My answer is, sure there is, and I'll give you two suggestions. One, don't take things in your life for granted. The water that comes out of your faucet, the electricity that charges up all your favorite mobile devices. Not my day. Your family members, don't take them for granted. Your neighbors and friends, thank you. The fact that you are an American and the freedoms that go along with it, don't take those for granted. Take a minute to think about where all these things and people came from and the efforts, resources, and sacrifices it took to bring these things to you. And then take another minute to think about what you would do if you no longer had them. Second suggestion I have is don't live a boring life. Honor the people we are remembering this weekend whose lives were cut short by living your own life to its fullest. Learn some new words in a foreign language. Take a cooking or photography class. Volunteer some of your time in the service of someone else, whether it be a family member, a neighbor, or even your entire community, as many of you standing here are doing. Pass on what you've learned to the generations that follow us, and let the spirit of those fallen service members and first responders live on through the positive actions that you do in your lives. Okay, again, class, to summarize, don't take things for granted. Don't live a boring life. I thank you very much. I would like to thank the elected officials that Tom mentioned and the sponsors for providing the support and the resources for this parade. Otherwise, it wouldn't happen. And I want to give a big thank you to Tom Long and the men and women of American Legion Continental Post for bestowing this honor on Michael Perlman and me. Have a great rest of the weekend. Thank you very much.
Major, thank you. Okay, it's now my honor to introduce to you a member of the City Council who also is chairman of the Veterans Committee, something I hold near and dear to my heart. So let me introduce to you Council Member Eric Ulrich.
All right. Thank you, and Lily, and the General. I brought my own General today. Thank you so much. I will be brief. I want to join all of you in honoring the services and the sacrifice of all the men and women who have made the ultimate sacrifice defending our great country, protecting the freedoms that you and I so often take for granted. And I think of especially the men and women that we honor today who gave their lives in service to our country on the beaches of Normandy, or in the South Pacific, or in the battlefields of Korea, or the jungles of Vietnam, or the deserts of Iraq, or the mountains of Afghanistan. Wherever they fought and wherever they died, they made the ultimate sacrifice defending the greatest country that God has ever created on the face of the earth, and that's the United States of America. So thank you. Thank you. God bless our veterans. God bless the American Legion. God bless America. Thank you.
Councilmember, thank you so much for those kind remarks. And now I have the opportunity to introduce to you somebody who I think actually doesn't need any introduction since she's been doing so many things in this parade. But as I like to refer to her, our own First Lady, the First Lady of the Borough of Queens, our Borough President, Melinda Katz.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. Come on, everybody out there? So I want to first of all thank Curtis and my son Hunter for singing the national anthem. I am hoping that by the time he's ready to run for office, I'm no longer there, because I'm not sure I could compete with him. That was term limits, you never know. We want to thank Eric Ulrich for the work that he does for our community. Give him a round of applause, please, for the work that he does. We want to thank Tom Long and Bob Silver for the many years of service that they have given to this community and to 1424, the great post here in Forest Hills. Joe Hennessy, Community Board Chair here in this community, never misses a year, and we thank him for his public service. And it is a great time to be out here celebrating, commemorating Memorial Day. We are celebrating our community and the fact that we never miss a parade here in Forest Hills. That every single year we choose to be right here on Metropolitan Avenue paying tribute to the men and women who have lost their lives serving our country. We lay wreaths, we get together, we bring our families out, we march, we wave the flag, we pay tribute, we have our Boy Scouts, our Girl Scouts, our CERT, everyone here to make sure that we never forget. Curtis is always talking about the fact that, you know, Memorial Day is great for barbecues, but the fact that we are here today together paying tribute is an amazing tradition in Forest Hills. I'm proud of that tradition, which is why I never miss a parade, which is why when I put my children, our children to sleep every single night, Carter and Hunter, I thank God that the men and women are still fighting all over the world to make sure that we have that privilege, and it is a privilege, to put our children to sleep safe every single night in their beds. We can't let them forget, which is why I am so happy to see so many kids participating today. We cannot let them forget, and we can't forget. I did an event last week paying tribute to a World War II vet, Operation Desert Storm, and Vietnam War vet. We did it at Borough Hall, and a Gold Star mother was talking about the fact that she went to a police officer's funeral, and she spoke so eloquently. And she talked about the fact that she didn't know what to expect, and she walked into the funeral, and as you know, it's a sea of blue. And the men and women of New York Police Department are out there paying tribute. And when she walked in and walked into the crowd, they separated in tribute and in honor of the loss that she had. And it was a very, very touching moment for her. And I was so thrilled that she shared it with us. We want to thank everyone that helps the men and women that are coming home from war to reacclimate into life here. It's not easy. On June 9th, I am proud, and I hope everyone joins us at 11 a.m. in Elmhurst Park. We are finally going to unveil the design for the Vietnam Veterans War Memorial here in Queens. I started funding that about 8 years ago, and we are excited that it is coming to fruition. And remember Pat Toro and all those men and women who fought in the Vietnam War as well when we do that. Thank you for being out here today. Thank you for sending a message that we still remember and will continue to do every single year, and God bless you.
Thank you, Borough President Katz, for those great words, and count me in for the dedication of them. Okay, everybody's you're still awake? You're going to be awake further. Okay, it's time for me to introduce somebody I don't think he needs any introduction to. Nah, he doesn't need any introduction. But I will anyhow. Radio personality, somebody who lent a little sanity into the safety of citizens of the city of New York and other cities around the country and the world. needs no introduction. So it is my pleasure and my honor to introduce to you the leader of the Guardian Angels, the founder and leader of the Guardian Angels, Curtis Sliwa.
First off, to all those for keeping this tradition alive, you have to know that there are many communities throughout our 5 boroughs who no longer have their Memorial Day parades or commemorations or wreath layings as a result of an older generation either moving out or passing on to the hereafter. The tradition has not been kept alive, but here in Forest Hills, you've maintained that tradition. I do look up here, though, on the stage, and I notice that the mayor of the city of New York seems to be missing in action, as he has been for quite a few years. But I know he's decided at great lengths to honor the FALN terrorist, Oscar Rivera Lopez. He, unlike other elected officials, has not pulled out of this year's Puerto Rican Day Parade. He and Melissa Mark Vivarito, Speaker of the Council, want to extol praise and virtues on a man who had declared war on America with his followers and were responsible for 120 bombings, the killing and maiming of police officers and other American citizens. And so they chose to be at that parade, and I don't see them here at this parade. But that's not to excuse the opponents of the mayor, because this is a mayoral election. And I would have thought that people like Paul Massey, Nicole Malliotakis, Bo Dito, and the rest who would like to replace Mayor de Blasio and not give him a second term, I would have thought that they would have been either parading or would have been here to pass on a few words of patriotic pride to all of you. But I guess they don't necessarily understand the tradition of Forest Hills and the other communities that keep this tradition alive. And Queens, really, is the borough that has the most wreath layings, the most commemorations, and the most parades of any of the 5 boroughs. And that partly is based on the fact that you have citizens here who are conveying this tradition to brand new immigrants who have flooded into this county. Well, let me make note also of the fact that we've seen lately down south the attempt and the success to remove symbols of Confederate pride. Those individuals who had fought on the side of the Confederacy against the Union in the Great Civil War. And recently you saw in the city of New Orleans, there were snipers on the rooftops, there were armed gunmen and armed gunwomen protecting the men who were taking down statues that were placed in honor of General Lee, General Stonewall Jackson, and the President of the Confederacy, Jeff Davis. And that's a good thing. But you know something? If a demolition crew showed up at some of our memorials for our war dead, and each and every neighborhood has them, many of them are out of sight, out of mind. The place that I was first introduced to was Zion Square, right where Brownsville meets East New York meets Crown Heights, where East New York Avenue meets Eastern Parkway. And there is a great number of monuments in tribute to the young men who died in a series of wars and conflict, from World War I to World War II to the Korean War. It is now a staging area for the pigeons. You can see bottles of Old English Colt 45 there littered every day. The children of that neighborhood are never taught in their public school system or the charter school system or the Catholic school system what that square represents. Unlike here, the Remsen Cemetery, where you keep that tradition alive. But let's be honest, if all of a sudden a demolition crew arrived in the middle of the day in some of these squares that have been dedicated to our war dead, how many would even know what was being removed? How many would know of the sacrifice of the tradition? How bereft we are of transferring it, that memory, from one generation to another generation. And we are at fault for that, because we certainly have captive audiences. Our young children and grandchildren attend the public schools, attend the charter schools, attend the parochial and private schools, and that should be mandated as part of the curriculum, along with civics. Because if there were civics classes, the young boys and girls would understand the participatory nature of our democracy, this Republican Constitution that we have here that allows us to enjoy the freedoms that we so take for example. But you're not going to see that coming out of the mouths of our elected officials because they don't want to offend anybody. Well, I want to offend anybody who is anti-American. I want to offend anybody who comes to live in our country and does not uphold our traditions. I want it mandated if you come as a citizen of the United States, you understand the tradition, the pride, and what leads to the freedoms that you are going to benefit from. And that should be part and parcel the course of preparation for you to become a citizen, and most importantly for your children to enjoy the benefits of America. And finally, let me note that it's a really sad occasion for me this week because my mother Francesca, at the age of 94, passed on at the middle of this past week. And I just want to let you know that she carried on that tradition like so many of you. I remember as a young boy, she would put me in the 54 Ford with the white wool tires and the wooden siding. We called that station wagon Old Betsy. And before Memorial Day would take place, honoring of the war dead and those who served in peacetime and wartime, we would visit the military cemetery on Jamaica Avenue, right where City Line Avenue is Franklin K. Lane High School. And we would spend hours going through the various grave sites, all of them single, solitary, and exactly the same. It could have been a rich boy. It could have been a poor boy. It could have been a middle-class boy. It could have been a Jewish boy, a Muslim boy, a Christian boy, a Roman Catholic boy, an atheist boy. It mattered not. In every single solitary slab in honor of a veteran who gave of his life, my mother transferred to me, like so many in your generation, the purpose for their sacrifice, the dedication that they gave, and how we should never forget. And I'll never forget on the Memorial Day weekend, the parade that would take us into the Canarsie Cemetery, the only cemetery owned by the city of New York, the only secular cemetery, and we would see the grave sites, just like here at the Remsen Cemetery, of the Revolutionary War dead, of the Civil War dead, World War I, World War II, the Korean War, and those few who were just starting to come back from the Vietnam War conflict. And again, we were taught with patriotic pride to remember their sacrifice, to remember their dedication. So to all of you who have maintained the tradition, you have another responsibility. You have to transfer that to a new generation, to an immigrant community that may not have access to that information. Because we should insist, when you live in America, when you breathe this air, when you enjoy our freedoms, you understand the sacrifice of so many who came before, not all who were brought home with great tribute or brought home as heroes, but many whose backs were turned upon by some who still live and breathe and take advantage of what America has to offer today. So I will continue along with the Guardian Angels to come to these parades in Forest Hills and now in College Point and tomorrow in other parts of the boroughs that make up the city of New York. But I will tell you, to those who decide to honor terrorists instead of heroes, Ufa, that is a disgrazia, that is a shanda on these who have died here and are buried, and those who are buried across the plains of America. Thanks for coming out today and showing your patriotic pride again.
Shanda is a very fitting
Thank you,
word.
Curtis.
Yeah, it is.
It looks a lot like hers.
Wow.
What's the follow?
Unfortunately, I have to follow that. As we conclude our Memorial Day activities now for this year, I'd just like to point out that while discord and rancor permeate our body politic throughout the country, and all you have to do is turn on the news or read a newspaper, we are all Americans. Whether you've been here for 200 years or you've been here for 2 years, we are all Americans. And every single soldier, man or woman, who fought and died across the battlefields of this world in defense of our freedom and liberty, they had one thing in common. They all bled the same blood, red blood. We are all Americans, and I ask everybody to remember that. While all of those complain and yell and scream at one another about what's great and how to make things great, this country is great, and it always has been great. And with God's blessing, it will be great in the future. I'd like to thank each and every one of you for coming out today and helping us honor those who have given their lives for our freedom and liberty, and say to you that hopefully we can be here next year and once again commemorate these lives that have never been given in vain and will not be given in vain. Thank you very much. God bless you all, and God bless America.
Thank you.